welcome to Expenses Tracker Application using MERN Stack tutorial series. In this video, we are going to handle errors in our application. But before we go to that, in the previous video, we registered a user using Postman, but we didn't test whether the user was saved in the DB or not. So let's go ahead and check it first, and then we come back to the error handling. Cool. So make sure that you've logged in into your Mongodb account, and we did this in a previous video. So when you click on Browse Collections, let's see what we have, the one that we created. Alright, so retrieving list of database, and you can see here that I have my expenses tracker and then collection called users. Cool. And for that, you see I have the users being saved, but you can see that we have duplicate users. So that is what we are going to handle, that's errors to prevent duplicate user. Okay, so now that we see that, but let's download a certain tool that's going to help us to visualize our database really easy without coming back into this dashboard. So let's go to Google and then let's download what is called Mongodb Compass. Alright, so here's the link, and then scroll down, you can see that mongodb.com try download. Let's click on that. Alright, so here download for your operating system by click on download. I already have it already, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the application. So let me open mine here, Mongodb Compass. So let me make it bigger like that, and it's loading the plugins. Alright, so let's wait. It has what open here. Let me show you. There we go. It's here. Okay, so to be able to visualize your DB records, all what you need is make sure that your connection string that we got. So let's go back to our server, and where we paste under config and DB, you can see that we have our connection string here. So copy the whole of the connection string and then come back to the atlas and then paste it here and then connect. So it's connecting our DB, and with a couple of minutes or seconds, you see that we have it. So this is our name of our DB, and in there we have our collections. As you can see, we have one users, that's one collection, and the same as what we see in the, or what as we saw in the our dashboard. Okay, so this time around, we will not go back to MongoDB and log in again, but instead we're going to use this compass to visualize. Okay, this is done. So now let's see how we can handle errors gracefully in our application. When it comes to error handling in Node.js, sometimes if you're not familiar with Node.js, it looks a little bit complicated, but not all that complicated. But in this video, I'm going to make it pretty simple to do. So in your application, before you handle any errors, you ask yourself, where can you handle the errors? So for example, if you look at the controllers, where you want to handle errors is under users. So click on users, and this is what we did, but this is not the right way to handle errors, right? So for the meantime, let's remove that from here if user exists, and we want to throw a custom error, and then make sure that we cut everything from here and put it above try and catch, because if you want to throw any custom error, don't do it inside try, but instead before the try. Alright, so now we have it here. The next step is that how can we create a middleware that can be reused in our entire application to catch any errors that appears. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to install a third-party package called Express Async Handler, and it will make our life easier to handle errors. So I'm going to use yarn to install called Express Async Handler like that. Okay, so hit enter. So let's wait for Express Async Handler is done. So it's a small package. So let me clear the console here and let me restart my server. Right now I want to work with the back end, so I'm going to use server scripts, okay, to run my server. Cool. So now that we have it, the next step is that we need to create a middleware that's going to be reused in entire application. So this is the first time you're going to create a middleware to handle errors, right? So inside our, let me close everything, start from scratch. So SRC server SRC, then let's create one folder and let's call this one middlewares. So this folder is going to hold all our related middlewares in our application. So then let me create one file and let me call this one error middleware, like that .js. Okay, cool. So how can we create a middleware in Express? And the syntax is different from other middlewares. Okay, so for this you're gonna take, so let's create the function, normal function. Let me call this one const, and then let me call this one error handler, normal function, like that. But to tell Express that this function is an error handler, we need to pass in 4 things. Argument 1 going to be the error, your request, response, and next, as that. So if you pass this as a middleware to Express, Express will know that this is an error handler, and in case if there's any error, it will attach to this first argument called error. So here, let's do some logic. But before that, let's add or make sure that the error status code is really an error. For example, if you check this one, when you send the request, you can see that the response is called the status code is called 200, right? Even though we said that it's an error, but it's what 200, because we are saying that if there is user exists, just display this one. But our response said okay, but we are not okay with it. So we need to tell Express to customize this status code. All right. So that's what we're going to do here. So because of that, let's create our own status code. So const status code is equal to, on the response we have the status code, right? Cool. So if the status code and response which is equal to 200, even though it's error, therefore let's use 500, which means our server error or system error, right? Cool. Otherwise let's use let's use 500. Cool. Otherwise let's use the default res.status code. So the syntax means that on the response is not rec, on the response, not on rec. Okay, on the response we have a property called status code. If it is equal to 200, then change to 500. Otherwise, if it is not 200 and whatever status code, then use that. That's all what it means. So the next step is that we need to add this, we need to override the default status code that returns. So here let's add, because it's an object, we can add more properties to it called res.status. Okay, and then we can add our status code to that. Cool. Now our status code is okay. The next step is that let's send any errors. Cool. So we're going to make use of JSON, rest.json, and here we can send our custom message. So here let's provide a property called message, and I'll make it like that. And because this message I want it to be dynamic, I want to get the error from this here first argument. So if there's any error, then let's use the message. So this is optional chaining to avoid using AND operator like this. So if there's an error like this, and error.message. So with ESAs more than once, what is called chaining.message, and we are good to go. So next is let's provide the stack trace. The stack trace means that which file does this error occurs, and we can get that one from process.env.node environment if it's equal to production, then don't give us which file there was an error. Otherwise, let's get the error, the stack trace on the error called stack. That's all what we need. And the next thing is that let's export this function. Because this function, I'm going to export two or more functions, I will export it as an object, so called error handler. So we are done. The first part is done. We have created our error handler. The next thing is that we need to pass this error handler to Express middleware. And so let's go to the app, and this is how you can pass middleware. First of all, we did this one, pass in this body parser style or JSON, and we pass our routes. To the next thing is that let's require the error handler package we created. And for error handler, what you need to take note is that you need to call below all your routes. So let's call this one error, and then app.use, right? .use, and then let's paste our function. Don't call it, let Express code for us. So now we have done the second part. So this time around, if you try to send request, let's check it out. It's send, because we are not telling the controller to throw any error. So here comes the logic. So let's go back to our controller, and there, with this in place, we can throw any errors inside our controllers. So the first one I want to throw an error is here. So if user exists, so let's check. So if user exists, then we can throw new error and say that user already exists. So with this, let's check it out, the response. Let's send again. Let's wait for good news. And you can see that we have error. But if you check our terminal, you can see that we have the error here. But we want to display the error to the user, right? But it's in the console. That is why the Express async handler comes into play, right? So if we wrap, so next step is that let's require that package here. So cons, remember, so that package is going to help us to what? To return a user-friendly error as part of the response to the user. So Express async handler is equal to, let's require the package like that, and it's called Express async handler. So all what we need is to wrap the whole function inside this package. So here, this is where my function is. So let me cut everything from here like that, and then let me bring in Express async handler. Let me call it as a function, and then paste my function, and then let me remove this quotation mark here. And with this in place, let's check it out. Let's send one more time, and let's hope for good news. Let's wait for good news. I think our DB is not connected yet, so let's check it out before. Okay, DB connected, and there we go. We have it. User exists. But which file, the stack trace didn't work as we expected. So let's go back and then check again which stack trace this error of. We see that we have the server error, that's internal server error of 500. Now the status code is working. All right. So why is it that the package says that the stack trace is not working? So it's not. Sorry, it's like this. 3 equal to like that. That is where the error is coming from. Okay, so check it out one more time, and let's see. We're gonna get the status code and the stack trace, and there we go. Did you see? We have the error message, and it occurs on user controller on line number 25. So let's check it out and see if it's true. If it is really true, line number 25 or 15. Okay? Was it 10? Right? 10 to 15. Yeah, there we go. We have it. So guys, we are going to use this logic to handle or throw any errors. But the takeaway is that don't ever and ever throw any errors inside your try and catch. So let me try one more time. Sometimes I feel this back. So let me cut this one and place it inside my catch. And next, let me send the request, and you're going to see no feedback. let's check it out. We're gonna get empty response. There we go, right? So always put your custom error handlers up. When you throw any error, want to throw any error, do it above, like that. So check it out one more time, and then we end this video. Okay, cool. So everything is working perfectly as we're expecting. So in the next video, we'll continue the process of what? User registration. So see you in the next video.